Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Living Tantra podcast. Today, I am here with someone very special to me, Padma Ayon Prakash. Padma has been instrumental in several aspects of my own personal and professional journey. And today, he's here to speak with us about Christ consciousness. A little more about Padma. He is a wisdom author, an evolutionary catalyst, an initiated tantrika and sound master bringing together ancient wisdom and modern science. Padma's books, music, and multimedia are drawn from the traditions he's been initiated into. They include The Power of Shakti, Womb Wisdom, Sacred Relationships, The Christ Blueprint, The 9 Eyes of Light, Ascension Keys from Egypt, and Dimensions of Love. The forthcoming books of Science and Sound and Shiva's Hologram will be released later this year. Since 1997, Padma has presented, lectured, and taught in over 20 countries worldwide. Padma is a master of vibrational medicine through sound, translating the art of science and vibration to create moving and alchemical immersions. A globally distributed music presenter and producer, Padma performs worldwide with 2 albums for Sub Rosa BMG, Rhythmic Intelligence and Song of Light. It is really an honor to have you here today, Padma. Welcome.
Thank you. Lovely to be here.
So the first question, I just want to launch right into things with you. Can you share with us, can you speak to us about Christ as a Tantric Master?
Yeah, it's not really something you would immediately equate with the mass consciousness view of Christ. But of course, there was the public face, or let's say a face that has been presented to the public. But then also there was Christ Yeshua's real face and his real teachings and what he was really doing here and how he really was as a man, as a human being, and as a divine being. So firstly, one of Christ Yeshua's main embodiments was as a man, and as a man who embodied the divine. So he was very aware that as a son of man, he was here to bring both to humanity as a template of embodiment. So of course, this is what Tantra is. It's all about embodiment. It's about that unfolding, that unfurling, that unweaving from the body that weaves itself through superstrings throughout all of the cosmos and the universe and back again through the body. So the body is one part of the elemental vibrating superstrings of creation. So that is actually the definition of Tantra when you break down the words in Sanskrit, Tan and Tra. So Yeshua, Christ Yeshua, fully understood this. And also fully understood the basic polarities of what essentially Tantra is as well. The uniting and embracing and experiencing all extremes and all polarities in order to harmoniously unify and bring them all together in our lived, direct, felt, somatic experience here and now on earth in the body. So Yeshua was not some formless, transcendent, kind of untouchable being. You know, he was poor, he had no home, he was constantly walking and teaching, constantly around the poor people of the Middle East and India. And so he was very grounded, he was very human, he was very here, he was very embodied. And all they had to share was also very here and now, very human, very embodied. So when we say Christ Yeshua was a Tantric Master, I feel that he was the most sublime and perfected of Tantric Masters, because he had to live fully as a human being. And he, of course, had a wife and partner, Mary Magdalene, with whom he engaged in the deepest tantras with, both as a human man with a human woman wife, and as a divine masculine with a divine feminine. and everything that's involved in that, both from lovemaking to teaching together, to traveling together, to living together. All of that a relationship involved in a sublime to the most mundane. And all of that is Tantra as well. So weaving all those polarities together in a harmonious unity so that all could be what it was and experienced as that in a seamless flow of unity that flows underneath it all. So all of that is Tantra. So was Christ Yeshua a Tantric Master? Absolutely.
So I'm going to go off topic here a little bit and hear from you. You know, Christ lived over 2,000 years ago, and now in modern days, modern times, how would you articulate a modern authentic Tantrika?
Modern day authentic Tantrika is dissolving themselves daily into that which is nothing and everything, and then coming out of that space or staying in that space and coming into the human expression of it. So living that every day with the people that they meet, with the work that they're doing, with how they're moving, with how they're feeling, with how they're engaging with their emotions, with how they're viewing their thoughts and their minds, with how they're moving their bodies. They're bringing that consciousness as much as they can into everyday life, into every facet, physical, emotional, mental, spiritual, energetic, sexual, financial, worldly, nature, bringing that energy into every expression, into every act. And they're doing that somatically. So with the body feelings involved and engaged as well. So nothing is left out in a true tantric path. Everything is included, but everything is included in this sublime presence. So this is why meditation is so important as one aspect of the tantric path, as is the sexuality, as is many other aspects as well. But it's about everything being included in that sublime presence and everything being an expression of that sublime presence as well, simultaneously.
So through your work, you have articulated sort of three stages of Christ consciousness. And I would love for you to take a few minutes to speak about each one of those stages. I know your more recent work focuses on the third, so we'll get to that briefly. A question in the background, do you feel like these three stages are also relative to the time in which they're becoming accessible or available to people, just like Terma releasing at a specific synchronistic time where there's a fertility of consciousness?
Yes, exactly. Yes, I do feel that's true. And Christ Yeshua did bring forth his teachings that fitted the time, but they're also timeless because, of course, he was a timeless being and fully enlightened master. So the way that he presented his teaching is not the way that I would say it. It's the way that he presented it. And it's quite obvious if you look at what he taught, how there are different stages of ever increasing depth to what he taught. So of course, the first stage is what everyone knows. It's the Lord's Prayer. Now that's been hugely distorted and mistranslated and intellectualized in the mainstream. In the Gnostic Christians, so i.e. the esoteric or the Christians who were aiming towards enlightenment, those Christians or those Christed beings, the Aramaic Lord's Prayer is completely different to the Lord's Prayer as it's known in the world today, in modern day religion and Christianity. So that prayer means something completely different, and it's meant to be sung or sounded in Aramaic, which is a sacred language. So the Aramaic itself transports, alters, expands, and changes your consciousness just by saying it. And each line of the Lord's Prayer in Aramaic and its true translation then goes through each of the chakras. So the first line of Lord's Prayer is actually in a crown chakra. The second line is in a third eye. The third line is in the throat, and so forth. So it's actually an alchemical chakra exercise, the Lord's Prayer, in sacred sound. And true translation, it really makes sense. But in the English translation from the King James Bible that is most commonly available in the world, it's actually very much in a duality, first of all. And it's not actually what Christ taught. So it's a complete distortion, mistranslation, and then it becomes just an intellectualization of actually a living alchemical ceremony that you do every day.
That includes the body. Yeah, includes the body, includes our energy centers. Yes.
Exactly. Fully embodied. Yeah, fully embodied. So that was the first teaching, and that was public. So that was given to everyone, but then it was taught in private to, first of all, the apostles, and then the other disciples, and so on. So then that leads to the second pathway, which is...
One moment, Padma. So the result of more deeply embodying the Aramaic prayer is what? A deeper sense of union with God, or with, if you could point to something, because in my sense, the Beatitudes offer something different, come from a slightly different angle.
Yeah, true. Yeah, so the alchemical Lord's Prayer will first of all embody and connect that light within you, the light of yourself and the light of God. And then it would bring it all the way into the root. So it's actually very humbling and connecting at the same time. And of course, humility and gratitude are two of the attitudes of enlightenment. So not only was it humbling and connecting and embodying and rooting and grounding, it would also be opening and expanding you into the light of a loving source, or a loving God, or a loving God that loves you, and that there's this mutual love affair taking place. So then that becomes like the foundation for a deeper opening of the heart and the body into that love.
Beautiful.
So then the second, so once a person had connected to that light and love within themselves and into God and into their own bodies, and had become more humble, then came the next step, which is a pathway of the 10 Beatitudes. Now, a few teachers in modern times have been teaching this. Again, it's in Aramaic, and again, it's a whole pathway. It's not just 10 sayings that Jesus got on a mountain and proclaimed to the world, blessed are the poor, for they shall receive the kingdom of heaven, and so forth. No, these were actually very profound teachings connected to the breath. So they were all connected to breathing and emotional healing. So each one of the Beatitudes builds on the other. So you start off with the first few Beatitudes are really dealing with your base emotions like grief and sadness and fear, and you learn how to breathe into those feelings, into those emotions, to release them. And of course, going back to what you were saying earlier, is this relevant for today? Yes. Well, breath work is one of the biggest trends at the moment in healing modalities, along with sound. So Christ Yeshua was very big on using the breath, because he fully understood that this was how you could connect to spirit. And this was how one could heal oneself, through the breath. So you could say Christ Yeshua was one of the first breath workers, because he was consciously using what's called the breath of love, which is a kind of connected breathing, similar to what is being taught in breathwork circles today. And he was actually using that with his students and apostles to clear and heal their emotions, much as what is happening today. So the Beatitudes go through from 1 to 10, and it always starts with tu vahun, which means listen. So yes, you're saying listen, learn, be open to what is being shared, and breathe this in a particular way. And so as a Beatitudes go from 1 to 10, it goes up into deeper and deeper levels of the emotions, then it goes directly into the heart. In the 6th or 7th Beatitude, it's talking about love and the heart and blessed are the peacemakers. So each one of those teachings, again in Aramaic, and a true translation from Aramaic, not what we have been fed in modern day religion, because Jesus, Yeshua, was not religious at all. He was actually a system-wide disruptor of the paradigm of the day. So he was actually one of the first disruptors and one of the first system breakers. So through doing this deep breath work and opening the emotions and releasing these deep repressed, suppressed emotions, of course, that affected your mental health as well, as we all know today. And of course, releases and connects into a lot of our deep wounds connected to our childhood and our families and our relationships and what's the impacts and traumas of our life. Yeshua was doing that with the Beatitudes. And they all 10 Beatitudes kind of built one on the other in a sequence or series to allow somebody to become really embodied in their heart. Because to Yeshua, the only thing that really had any value was love. And any creations that we created, the only ones that had any meaning or value were ones that created more love. And that was it. He wasn't really interested in anything else. Any great metaphysical things, yes, he knew and understood them and even taught some of them, as a Gnostic gospel will show us. But it wasn't his main concern or his main purpose or his dharma or what he was here for. He was here to fully embody tantrically that union of a real simple human being, as we all are, with the most sublime, transcendent, formless God self. And all of it here and now on earth in the body.
Beautiful. I want to sidetrack just briefly here. Can you speak to the currency of feeling? Emotions first, but then feeling as the bridge between the two of those. And then also, maybe before you even touch on that, you have Indian DNA. You come from a deeply embedded, embodied experience of God that many Westerners do not. So can you just speak to us, transmit to us from that place of what God is, so that all of us innately have access to this, but I want through your words and through transmission, I want us to be open to that. Yeah, and then maybe the feeling, the connection to feeling in that.
Yeah, so feelings are the bridge for the soul into that I am present. So the soul is what so many people, most people on an authentic spiritual path are trying to live and embody the soul. But in Christ's understanding and in the Tantric Vedic understanding, the soul is just a repository of all your transmigrations, of all your incarnations, of all your soul records, of all your memories, of all your lifetimes, including this one, of all your gifts that you've learned over all your lifetimes, and also all the karmas that you've experienced, both so-called positive and so-called negative, all those challenges and opportunities and lessons. All of that is recorded in your soul. And that's what gives you a so-called individual or unique soul. So most people are striving to embody that, rather than just living from the ego mind. And it's, it's separate, it's total separate self. Now, in both the Christed understanding, the Egyptian understanding, and the Vedic understanding, the soul is held in a chakra 1 hand's length above your crown called the soul star. And it's that soul star that feeds down information through your spine into your body. And it's from this soul star that you then experience what you need to experience in life, from your karmas, to resolve your karmas, to learn your lessons, to download your gifts, which is also very important, to download your soul gifts. So, for example, you may be doing things now that you never learned, but it's just innate and natural to your soul. That's coming from your soul star chakra. So you may be really good at something, but you never really studied it. You may have done your first yoga class and gone, that's amazing, wow, I feel such a resonance and familiarity with this, where the person next to you will have done it and won't really feel anything. So that's all coming from a soul star. So this is something that most people are really interested in, but of course, it's still a conditioning. It's still a separation. It's a more glorious separation. It's definitely a more heartfelt and humble and connected to everything form of self, to use that terminology. But beyond that is what in Sanskrit we say aham, so the I am. And Aramaic we say inanna, I am. In ancient Egyptian we say ana, I am. So this I am is completely pure. It has no memory, no incarnations, no reference points, no transmigrations, no identity. It's completely pure, still, sublime silence of light. And so that presence within you, called the I am or the self, it is that is really the next step beyond the soul. And that is then the gateway to that full God consciousness, which is different actually to the I am. The I am is self-realization, so the realization of the self, i.e. the whole universe is within you and reflected in you, and you are the whole universe. And you have realized that there's no separation between everything and everybody in the universe and all those reflections that are presented to you. And so in that being, in that knowing, in that presence, you are self-realized. And of course, in that, there is no karma. All your records are held in the soul star, are emptied out, are deleted. So there's not even an identity as a soul at that point. There is no individual soul. There is an I am, but that's not an individual soul, because that I am is the same in everyone. It's not a different I am for me and a different I am for you and a different I am for my friend down the road.
Yeah, like my truth, your truth. Yeah.
Yeah, there's no your truth or my truth. There's just the truth of the I am, which is love and peace and that sublime stillness and presence.
So
that's how simple it is. But that's self-realization. But then there's another step which Christ Yeshua showed us, which is God realization. Because then you are connected to that which is beyond creation, is totally transcendent of creation. So there's some profound Vedic teachings about this, and which Shiva has given, which in the Maheshwara Sutra, which talk about how not only is one in all of creation, but one is also transcendent of creation as well. So once one has realized that eye of God, to use that word, that you can see all of creation just through love, and yet you have completely nothing to do with it. You are sublime and supreme witness, parasakshat in Sanskrit. You are sublime, perfected witness situated in unconditional love, in the sublime detachment of unconditional love. And you have nothing to do with creation. So that's God realization. So I've had experiences of that, but I can't say that I'm fully embodied as that. And that's another step, which is some people will feel drawn to and some people will not. Either way, it doesn't really matter, because once you have cleared out the soul, records, memories, karmas, lessons, sufferings, gifts, once you have emptied out that part of you, let's say, or that essential part of the I, beyond the ego, then it's very straightforward. It's very simple to step into the I am. It's actually a simultaneous process. And then once one is not I am, that same I am is everywhere in creation. That is a self-realization. And then it's just about embodying that in your relationships and in your daily life as well.
So is it accurate to say, in my limited experience with the Maheshwara Sutra, the on-ramp into the expression of creation through sound and through and back out, it's through the experiencing the totality, the entirety of it, that one moves into a place of being able to witness beyond. Or in other words, even in Tantra, we have to embody, go fully into the expression of polarities in order to move beyond our necessity of them in refining, defining, dissolving. And how does this, would you say the Beatitudes are a level of still emptying out, the soul star chakra, the healing of those emotional imprints, so that then one can move more into the I am?
Totally. Yes, but to put it really simply, in order to transcend anything, we have to completely embrace and experience it. So the whole story of creation is like that. The whole story of our lives are like that as well. Whether one is doing that or not, eventually one will have to.
Right. We can't skip anything.
But yeah, if you're going to come to any peace or any real understanding about anything, you're going to have to embrace and experience it and fully embrace it, and then it will magically dissolve. And then you won't have any issue with it. But yeah, so one has to go through all the emotions and feelings in order to come to the peace that lies beyond them. And so, yes, the Beatitudes, it's a deep breathwork, emotional healing journey. And so once one has completed enough of that, then they can come to the third step of Christ's teachings, which are the 7 great I am mantras, or what I call 7 I am light body codes. So the I am, again, when you translate them from Aramaic, it's a bit different to how they're known in the Bible or in the world. So you have the 7 great I am sayings, which is, I am the good shepherd, I am the way, the truth, the life, and so on. So of course, Christ Yeshua is not saying, I am that, you must follow me, which is what religion has told us. No, he's saying the I am, once you connect into that, is the way and guide and guru for you, is the truth, and is the means to knowing, being, immersing, dissolving into that I am. So his whole thrust with these I am mantras and teaching them in private, in secret afterwards to the apostles and disciples, his whole thrust, his whole purpose behind it was getting other people to plug into what he was plugged into, that I am. Not about him, not about following him, because he was giving these I am mantras when he knew he was going to leave Palestine soon after the crucifixion and resurrection. He knew that was going to happen. So he was passing on these final teachings to his apostles, who could then teach it to other people as they went across the world, to India, to France, to India, Europe, and so on. So he gave these teachings so that people could plug in directly to the I am themselves, because they had done enough of this soul healing, emotional healing, breathwork healing, opening, expanding, releasing of all that was held rigid within them or suppressed within them, all those emotions that didn't have a place to go or didn't have a place to express or didn't have a place to release and be done with. So the I am teachings, or the I am mantras that are recorded in the Gospel of John, are actually very profound, heart-powered light and sound technologies, because it all starts in the heart, and then the heart becomes the fuel for that light to anchor into different parts of the body. So many different chakras in the body and outside the body are used in the 7 I am light body codes. And this is actually utterly profound, because the light body of, you could say, the I am light body, I'm calling it, but in India it's exactly the same. And in Vedic Tantra, this I am light body is exactly the same, which I found fascinating, because they call it the golden body in Tantra. So the golden body, the root chakra of the golden body, starts at the crown. That's a root. The soul star is a sacral, and so on and so on. And then the solar plexus is the I am, and then the sun is a heart chakra of the golden body. So and so on and so on, all the way to the top, which is a creation chakra, which is a beginning of creation, that single point of light that arose from void. That's a creation chakra. And that actually, when you embody, that becomes your third eye chakra. So these teachings of the golden body in Tantra, which was in Vedic Tantra and may have been in Vajrayana Tibetan Buddhism as taught by Padmasambhava. I cannot confirm that, but definitely in Vedic Tantra, the golden body, and the same in the I am light body that Christ taught as well. So then this brings forth all these associations. Was Christ taught in India? Well, there's a huge amount of evidence that says, yes, Christ was taught in India like he was taught in Egypt. So because he spent 3 years in Egypt, that's recorded in the Bible. What was he doing there? On holiday? No, he was actually doing something there. And the same in India. There is a huge amount of records in Sanskrit and in Pali, actually the Buddhist language, that show Yeshua, or Isa, as he was known there, teaching and traveling and learning various Hindu practices in various cities across India. In his missing 20 years or whatever, that no one knew where he was. So there's a huge cross-correlation in multiple ways. That's really fascinating, and it cannot be a coincidence. And I've named a lot of these in the book Shiva's Hologram, the Maheshwara Sutra, and once you look at the evidence, it's undeniable that Christ was actually taught in India. Learned a lot of things in India. But returning back to this golden body, this I am light body, it's extremely embodying, because first of all, you start with the heart. So every single I am starts in the heart, but both parts of the heart. So that's the lower heart and then the upper heart. So it starts with uniting both of those hearts. And in Tantra, that's the Anahata, heart chakra, and the Hridayam. So both heart chakras are united. And from this heart power, from this fuel of the heart, from this love, then the rest of the I am mantra blooms into different chakras, including all of the different chakras and each different I am code. So it builds up from 1 to 7, and each one builds one on the other until you get to 6 or 7, which is when you're in, the total I am presence. Any sense of you is completely dissolved. It's completely gone. And all that's left is that silence and that presence and that stillness of gentle love that is completely here. And that has no mind, not even a mind of a soul. There's not even a mind of a soul in there. So even your soul has thoughts, and in India we call that the Buddhic mind. There's a Buddhic mind, is a mind of the soul. And most people are striving to live in the Buddhic mind instead of the ego mind. And this is a great step to make. But in the I am, there's not even that Buddhic mind. It's gone. There is no mind of the soul. There is no soul. It's all completely dissolved. And this is profound to experience. And the beautiful thing is, what I love about Christ's simplicity, the teaching of that love, is that it's available to anyone. It's available to anyone. Yes, there's stages to it, but anyone who has a heart and feels their heart can do this. So it's like open to everyone. It's like universal. It's like universal democracy in a way. But it's like what Christ said, my yoke is easy. My teachings are easy, because all you have to do is be in your heart and follow that. You don't need to know all this amazing stuff and metaphysical stuff. You don't need to know this and you don't need to know that. No, you just need to come into your heart, do these openings, do these practices, and everything will connect inside you just through the power of your heart. So I love that, because it opens it up to everyone, like anyone can do it. And of course, if you've done that deeper emotional shadow healing, inner child emotional things, of course, it will help in you accessing the I am. But anyone can tap into it if they have a strong enough heart. If they're heart-centered, they'll be able to tap into it. So I really love that about Christ Yeshua's teachings and what he came here on earth to do, is to show that through that power of love, that power of the heart, we can access the infinite. And through the 7 I am light body codes, he shows us directly how to do that for ourselves. That doesn't rely on any other person, doesn't rely on him. It's nothing to do with him. It's nothing to do with a person called Yeshua who walked on the earth 2,000 years ago. No, he gave these teachings and he left. And he's gone. And it's nothing to do with him. He wanted us all to plug into that same self-realized state, that I am light body, that he was plugged into, that he was tuned into, that he was sharing his teachings from, that he was living from, that he was embodying. So this was his desire, his wish, his dharma, his purpose, was to share that with others in a really simple, direct way that cut through, the Hebrew religion, that cut through the complexities of the Kabbalah, that cut through the complexities of Hindu Tantra, Egyptian teachings, or whatever it was. He took all these great traditions, which many people have become enlightened from, and kind of simplified it all down into the heart, and then gave teachings that allowed people to access everything that come from before from all these traditions, but directly through the heart in a really simple way. And so this was his real gift, his real gift to us all as humans. And it's nothing to do with Christian. I've never been Christian. I'm not Christian at all. But the gift that he has is just accessible through the heart and through sound. And so anyone can do that. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what you believe in, or if you're a practicing religious person or not. It doesn't matter. If you've got a heart, you've got a heart. If you resonate to sacred sound, boom. And if you can breathe, there you are. You can do it. It's as simple as that.
Yeah. So I want to touch on the science of sound briefly, because you speak to how the way that Aramaic Lord's Prayer has been translated today, it doesn't hold the same access. You speak to these lineages or traditions, Egyptian, Aramaic, Vedic, Tibetan, each of those having their own sacred seed languages. Can you speak a little bit to how code, or how is embedded in sacred sound, and why the importance, for Westerners, the importance beyond language, maybe as we've known it, into the recognition of these seed languages, and how these seed languages hold the architecture of the bridge. Just like you said, our hearts and sound are the entry points into our authentic embodiment of Christ consciousness. So just speaking a little bit to how sound works and how we can relate to sound, either through the different levels or languages.
Yeah, I think people resonate to different sacred languages. So some people will resonate more to Sanskrit, some people resonate more to Aramaic, some people resonate more to Tibetan, some people resonate more to ancient Egyptian. These are kind of the primary sacred languages. So of course, Sanskrit is the most popular sacred language in the world today, because literally billions of people every day are doing Sanskrit mantras, Sanskrit prayers, because they can feel the shift in their consciousness that happens when they sound Sanskrit. Prayers or mantras or kirtan or bhajan or meditations or seed syllables, bija seed syllables, whichever way. But increasingly, I think in the West, more and more people resonate more to Aramaic, which is connected to Hebrew. So Aramaic, which is the language that Yeshua taught in and transmitted and encoded, all the Beatitudes, all the I am light code and all these teachings were all in Aramaic. So both in the East and the West, so both in the Kabbalah and in the Vedic Tantras, sound was understood to create the whole universe. The hologram, the sonic hologram of creation, or what I call sonic consciousness, or you could say the sonic hologram. So in both traditions, the Kabbalah, the East and the West, the Kabbalah and the Vedas, there were 4 different modes of sound. And I explain these in great depth and detail in the book, The Science of Sound. So the first level of sound is what you're experiencing partially right now, which is the written and spoken word. So what we believe sound to be is what we can hear, what is audible. But actually, that's the smallest part of sound, as the Bhagavad Gita and the Rig Veda say. They say, no, this is like the smallest part of sound. You think this is everything. This is just a tiny bit of what sound actually is. And so in the Kabbalah, they call that the most literal, like just taking things on word value. The, it, go to the shop, watching the news, this kind of thing, that kind of level of sound. Mm-hmm. So underneath this, in Sanskrit, we call it madhyama. And so that's the second level of sound. So that's feeling, tone of where that person is coming from when they're speaking. So you could say the energy or the song that person is singing behind the words that they're using. And sometimes the energy of what someone's saying and what they're saying are not congruent. So you can see, hold on, he's saying something really nice, but actually he feels really bad, or she feels that feels off, So that's kind of madhyama. You're tuning into the energy of that person rather than just the words that they're saying. And this has much more deeper implications, because then if you deeply listen to something, you will understand where that energy is coming from. But then also connected to madhyama pictures, that we call this like a picture-based consciousness in the second mode of sound. So sometimes if you're really tuned into madhyama, second mode of sound, you can be hearing someone speak or listening to a piece of music or a piece of poetry or something like that. And you can see pictures behind it, right? The pictures of what that person is actually transmitting. Actually, there's a science behind this now. It's called reverse speech. And in reverse speech, everything that people are saying is metaphorical and through pictures, basically. So metaphors are a part of madhyama, certain forms of transcendent poetry, which expand and shift your consciousness and bring you into the picture of what that poem actually is. It paints a picture, literally in your mind, of what those words are saying. That's also madhyama. But then also sacred geometry is part of the second mode of sound as well. So
would you consider sutra as well, or is sutra deeper?
Yeah, the sacred languages will take you into madhyama as well, absolutely. Yeah. So bhajan and kirtan will alter, and mantra will alter and expand your state of consciousness. And so the first state of consciousness you'll go into will be madhyama, will be the second mode of sound. So in Tantra, they understood this, and they would work in many and various ways to really go deep into the second mode of sound. And there's many ways to do that. I've just listed a couple of them, but there's many more. Like Reiki, for example, the symbols you use in Reiki, that's tapping into the second mode of sound and tapping into that universal life force energy, again, through the picture. So there's many ways to tap into the second mode of sound. And I think many people on the spiritual path actively tap into this almost daily, which is fantastic. So, but that's sound. That was all seen as sound by the Kabbalist masters and the Vedic masters, and in fact by Lord Krishna as well, who taught a little bit about this. And then you come to the third mode of sound, which is called Pasyanti in Sanskrit. Not many people tap into this, but this is where things really get interesting, because Pasyanti is like a laser beam. It's when you're totally focused and absorbed in light, in a singularity. So your consciousness has come into a singularity, a single point of light. And in this singularity, you receive that universal download of gnosis, or vijnani, they say in Sanskrit, of that direct insights from the divine, so to speak. You get the direct download, universal download. So a lot of the Kabbalah, a lot of Tibetan Buddhist sutras and wisdom, almost all of the Vedas are downloaded from Pasyanti, are downloaded from the third mode of sound. So this is why not many people get access to this, because you have to have a certain capacity, dedication. You have to be an advanced meditator, really, and I've done a great deal of inner work to access Pasyanti. Doesn't mean that you can't. And in fact, in group consciousness, this is accelerated. It's easier. Still doesn't mean it happens, but it's easier. So Pasyanti is where you, and it's ecstatic. In its peak experience, Pasyanti is deeply ecstatic. So it's a samadhic state of being where the breath completely slows down, and where, as the breath slows down, light appears in the brain, this current of light in the pineal, and then from that pineal, the pineal starts to open more deeply, the crown starts to open, and one goes into this really drunk and intoxicated state of bliss, or Shiva consciousness, as it's known, where one becomes completely drunk in this, and one understands that this is home. This is our home state of consciousness, to be in this bliss, to be in this total one-pointed singularity of consciousness. You are one. You are completely one in that. And that's deeply focused within you. So all the seers and prophets access Pasyanti and download their wisdom, which they then share with others. And of course, many of the Gnostic Christian texts and Gospels have come from this state of consciousness as well. In fact, most of the wisdom teachings of every single tradition have come from this mode of sound. And anyone can access it, it's there, but it takes some doing to access. But my feeling is that now I've really clearly delineated this in the book, The Science of Sound, it'll become a lot more open for a lot more people to then be able to access this state of sound, this third mode of sound, which then leads into the fourth mode of sound, which is called para in Sanskrit, parades in the Kabbalah. So in para, or in the totality of parades, one completely dissolves. There is not even a singularity. There's not even a focused singularity anymore. It's like, the only way I can describe it in words is, in that singularity, that one pointed focus in the pineal, that single point of light, you go through that bindu point, you go through that single point, and you come out the other side to no point. There's no point at all. But there's only no point because you have completely gone through that singularity, that single bindu point, that nuclear photonic, densified, almost black hole point of consciousness. You have gone through that and come out through the white hole. You've come out through the other side. And that then is para. That's a totality. So in a pure experience of para, there is absolutely nothing. There is no I, there is no creation, there is no universe, there is nothing. And then if you're to look at it the other way, coming from this place, from the fourth mode of sound into the third mode, then you'll come into a singularity, then you'll come down into madhyama, where all the pictures and the sounds and everything else, and then you'll come down into the written and spoken word. Hello, how are you doing? Oh, let's go to the restaurant today, etc., etc. So it just shows, and what I love about this is that we all have the power through our voice, because all of this is to do with the voice. The voice is the first instrument, the voice is a word. We all have the power through our voice to emulate the creator. And through the four modes of sound, we can do that totally organically. And people have done it in every tradition throughout history, and people are still doing it today. And to counterbalance what's happening in the world with technology and everything else that's happening, the return of this wisdom in a really clear format, I feel, can really support people to access their own organic inner technology, which is far superior to any external technology that can ever possibly be created.
And just as you were saying, it completely removes the intermediaries. Like, it's not dependent on someone or some figure outside of ourselves to access our own realization.
Exactly. And that was a complete, total point and purpose of the 7 I Am light body codes that Christ Yeshua gave to the world. And it's also the purpose of the four modes of sound. Is you can access the universal download yourself and acquire that direct inner guru, that direct universal guidance, that direct universal wisdom, that direct universal power as well, because beings in the third mode and above have a lot of power. There's a huge amount of power that they can wield for all kinds of purposes, depending on what they want to do. Like even in India, for example, the greatest demon of all, Ravana, who abducted Sita and is part of the subject of the Ramayana, one of the avatars of God in the Hindu tradition. Ravana was the greatest, most powerful demon in the universe. He was so powerful, he was more powerful than the creator God, Brahma. That's how powerful he was. He was in Pasyanti. And so he could directly access that universal power, universal wisdom. But he used it for, let's say, evil purposes, in the play of creation. It's not really evil. He was just playing his part, his role in creation, bring forth what was necessary at that time. But see him as evil, but I don't really see him as evil. But he was in the third mode of sound, and he was directly accessing that universal wisdom. But so were all the Greek prophets, the Greek sages, the Kabbalistic sages, the Indian sages, the Tibetan sages, the Egyptian masters, the Atlantean masters. All of them were accessing that mode of sound and beyond.
Beautiful. I so appreciate how you demystify so much of this into very tangible science, which is what it is, that then gets activated or innervated by our heart, by our feeling, our hearts. Padma, I know this third level of Christ consciousness is informing one aspect of your work right now in the world. So I would love for you to speak about the ion transmissions that you are sharing all over the world right now, so that for people who want more, maybe they can experience directly.
Yes, I'm just starting to share this in person after immersing in it for quite some time myself, and also because it's the right time. So it all happens spontaneously, but now is the right time. And now that they're very clear, non-religious, say Gnostic or spiritual understanding of it is there as well. So I can explain it using the spiritual science of consciousness and devoid of any faith, because it is a science. It is the science of consciousness. It is the science of sound. It is the technology of love. it is all of that. So each one of these I am light body codes is available and accessible to anyone who feels a call to it. And of course, that's important. You have to feel the call, because then that's how you will really receive it, because you know that it's for you, it's for your journey, it's for your path. So each one of these 7 I am, so I am the good shepherd, I am the way, the truth, and the life, I am the vine. All of these sayings, when you translate them into Aramaic, it means something a little bit different, and actually something a lot more profound. And then when you actually sound these Aramaic mantras into the different chakras, and then into the light body, and then down into the spine and the nervous system and the root, as you sound these sounds, they activate different parts of the nervous system, of the chakras, of the light body, and weaves them all together in this quite sublime and awesome, awe-inspiring, wondrous way that the mind could never come up with. So this also amazes me into wondrous states of awe, where as I'm dissolving into each I am code of light within the body, you come to understand the sublime light technology that our bodies and nervous systems and chakras are made of. But I can't say I understand it with my mental body. I understand it on a much deeper level. And I can't really articulate it through mental words, because it's only an alchemical experience that you can have. But the engineering of the Christ conscious grids, or you could say the unity grids, they're the same thing, the unity grids within ourselves that then connect to the earth, and the earth grids and the earth fields, and that unity grid that is there, where we are weaved into the fabric of humanity, and humanity is weaved into the fabric of this individualized particle of the God self I am, that each human being is in truth. That weaving that happens through these I am light body codes is profound and sublime, and is nothing that any human mind could engineer or devise or think about or even plan or create. And that's another thing that I really love about this, is that as you deepen into each one, you go from number 3 to number 4 to number 5, number 6, number 7, you get to connect yourself in ways that you didn't even know about before. And that's not available to the public. It's not available. Be certain how certain things within you connect to other things within you. So this one I'm saying about the Christ grids, or those unity grids within us, that light engineering system, to use this quantum physics terminology, that quantum engineering system within us is what gets connected through these I am light body codes. And so, as I said, that's really sublime and very awe-inspiring the more you actually have the experience of it. Because you come to understand, wow, there's such a greater intelligence working in my body than I could even possibly dream of, let a mind imagine or create or plan or write down or think about, or anything like that. So that is also really beautiful. But at the same time, it's not like there's something greater than you, because you are that. That is that I am. So it's that, that quantum paradox. It's not really a paradox. You just understand it in all aspects. So it's never really a paradox. It's just you understanding it in multiple ways. And then, but it all flows together. And that's Tantra as well.
Beautifully said. So do you want to say anything about the form of these transmissions that you're starting to share now? We'll post below in notes a link not only to your website and books, but to these specific offerings. You have a couple coming up, yes?
So I'm teaching, transmitting in Florida in May the 19th to the 21st. And then in the north of England, June the 23rd to the 25th. So they're 3-day transmission workshops where I'll be transmitting the Aramaic, but then guiding the group into it, because my wish, my sankalpa, my intention is that, yes, I transmit it and people receive that transmission. And then afterwards, you can practice it yourself and deepen into it yourself, because it's a path. And with any of these lineage teachings, the guide transmits it, so you then can fully connect into it, and you connect into that lineage, or you connect into that energy, let's say. And then you're empowered to then go off and really immerse in the totality of it in your own practice afterwards.
So you're offering more than an experience. This is an initiation into a pathway.
Exactly. Yes, I'm not really interested in experiences because they come and go. I'm interested in the embodiment, as I know Christ Yeshua was, and I know any decent guide is, you know. So it's an initiation into that pathway, if you so desire to deepen into that pathway and have that empowerment and have that raising of vibration, because definitely in those 3 days, your vibration will raise quite significantly in the 3 days. And you can keep on deepening in that raising of vibration if you continue afterwards. But if you choose not to, that's fine too. You will just have that direct experience and immersion into that I am light body, and you can continue with it in whichever way you please, as what befits you and suits, you know, your soul guidance and your soul purpose and what you are here to live and embody on earth. So yes, it is an initiation, an opening, a raising of vibration, and then afterwards can come the deepening into that I am presence. And one has to remember that this was Christ Yeshua's last teaching, last public teaching. So this was the last teaching he gave before the crucifixion, before the resurrection, and before he then vanished off public radar, let's say. Some say he went to India, which is what various records say in Kashmir, written records. Who knows? But anyway, he vanished after the resurrection. So these were his final teachings. And they were the final teachings because that's what he had to offer. It's like, here, you do this, you'll be in that I am. You'll become self-realized. You'll enter into that space. And that's the greatest gift I can give you. And then it's got nothing to do with me. It's just about you being that and then sharing that and giving that to the world. Because in Christ Yeshua's eyes, you can't be fully healed unless you're also helping others. Like one goes with the other. You can't be fully healed just sitting alone by yourself. You're only fully healed when you're actually sharing and supporting others in some ways, even if it's only just one person, 2 people. But the fact is, you are giving beyond your ego, even soul self. You're giving in that way. So the I am is a really fast way, I'd say, because it's purely heart-powered. It's solely only heart-powered. So it comes fully from your heart. Your heart is a direct fuel and engine for the I am and for all these practices and experiences and immersions. So it's only you being in that heart, which each code does. It very directly, right from the beginning, brings you into both aspects of your heart chakra. But then everything unfolds from there. And interestingly, in Kabbalah, in the Tree of Life, it's a direct path from Tiferet into Kether. So it's a direct path. It's not going here and there and doing this pathway and that pathway. No, it's simple. It's direct. You're just going straight up. Heart, crown, universe. Boom, through the light body. So it's I love that too. It's so direct. It's simple in most respects and direct and heart-centered. So if that appeals to you, then and you have a calling to it, then I'd love to see you in either Florida or England, and possibly later on the year it will be in many other countries as well. I've already been invited to France and other places, so it may be going global according to the divine will as and when that happens.
Beautiful. Yeah, thank you, Padma. I have a relatively deep understanding of your generosity toward humanity and what you have availed yourself to in order to bring through in a deeply loyal, distilled, and clear transmission for people's pathway to realization. So it's really a gift to listen to you, to have you share, and to expose you to more people that would deeply benefit from the depth of wisdom, gnosis, and access that you are. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you for seeing that. Yeah, I appreciate that. And it's my pleasure.
Okay, so people will be able to find you through links below. And thank you all for joining us this week on the Living Tantra podcast. And I look forward to being with you again.